Welcome to Sikbaggers YouTube channel. I'm Steve. Today we're going to be installing a fat tire on the 2024. Now 5 or 6 years ago we did a full install video on the fat tire kit on a road glide. It's the same install on a street glide, but we did it on a road glide. And back then the kits were a little different than they are today. Now today we have the easy kits, and then back then you had to change your fork legs. If you get up here and you look at your OEM forks, you'll notice that the pegs where the screws go in stick out a little bit farther past the edge of the fork. So back then you had to change the fork legs, and they were called shaved legs, right? So these little things were shaved down flush even with it. The fat fender came over and ran straight down and went on the bike. So back then it was a pretty lengthy install video. We had to pull the wheel, the fender off, pull the fork legs, rebuild the fork legs with the shaved fork legs, and then put it all back together. So there's only a few things you need to do to run a fat tire kit on your bike. It's pretty simple. You need, of course, the fat wheel and the fat tire. You're going to need a fat wrapper fender, and you're also going to need shaved fork cans. The inside of the fork cans are shaved up in the sides to allow room for the fender to set in there. And the cool thing about it now, like I said, you don't have to rebuild your fork legs anymore. And they have what's called an easy fender. So it's going to go on the same way your stock one goes on. So instead of the edges of the fender coming down and going straight, they actually bend in now and allow room for that OEM fork leg. So what comes on the bike is a 19-inch Helix contrast cut wheel. So it's got black and it's got the polished edges. What we have now is a wheel from Artopia. Artopia makes an 1855 of the Helix wheel. You can get it chrome, you can get it all blacked out, you can get it contrast cut like this, and we opted for the blacked out wheel. Because it's the same wheel as the back wheel, all we have to do is take the back wheel off and have it powder coated all black, and you'll have a matching set of wheels. Now when you get this wheel from Artopia, you can get a tire from them, but they're not going to have it mounted on there. You have to get the TPMS sensors from Harley Davidson, or take the one out of your stock wheel and mount it back in your new wheel and have Harley Davidson configure that wheel back to your bike, right? So here you have the Artopia Helix 1855. And like I said, there's no valve stem in it because that's where the TPMS sensor goes on the back side of that valve stem. So there's that. But we also have the wheel adapters and the bearings already on the bike. Now these bikes are ABS, so they have to be ABS bearings, and you have to have these wheel adapters to fit the new 24 rotors. In 23 CVOs and 24s, the rotors got slightly bigger and the holes are different than the rotors on the older wheels. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get this front wheel off. We're going to get our rotors off. We've got our new rotor bolts that we're going to put in. We're going to torque them all down, and then we're going to take this wheel up to HD and have a Metzler ME888 put on here. I briefly just want to go over how fat tires work, not the wheel, but the tire itself, and why you always see, hey, I had to put a rear 1855 on my front, but I had to turn it around backwards to run it. And there's a reason for that, and Metzler and maybe a couple of other companies out there have figured out a way to run them either way. So you can buy that Metzler ME888, you can run it on the rear, or you can run it on the front. Those bands are put in there a specific way, so if it's the back tire, it's pulling on it, and if it's the front tire, the weight of the bike is pushing on it. So in order to compensate rear to front, flip the tire around and you're back to normal. So when we got this road glide back here, I absolutely knew what I was going to be putting on the bike. That fat tire. That fat tire on a road glide makes that road glide fairing look normal to me. Honestly, I said it back then and I still say it today. Harley Davidson should sell a road glide with a fat tire on the front. The 21 fat tires look even better, but that's a whole nother story because now you're raking the front of your bike and all that good stuff. But with the 1855, you don't have to do anything. When you go to take your wheel to have a tire put on it, in order for them to balance it correctly, the rotors have to be installed on here. So we're going to do that first. Pull it, transfer the rotors, take it to HD, have that Metzler ME888 put on this, come back, restart the video, and we'll finish up. Now you'll notice that the axles on the 24s are a little bit different, but these are still super easy to get off. And if you're interested, these axle cap covers here come from Willie Shiny. I'll put a link down in the description of those. You still have a pinch bolt down here at the bottom to remove the front wheel, but now we have a 3/4 inch hex that has to go in here. So make sure that you got yourself a 3/4 inch hex like this. That's going to go in there to remove the axle. But the first thing we need to do is take out the 6mm pinch bolt down here at the bottom. We've got 2 bolts right here to pull our caliper off. It's going to be a 10mm 12-point socket. If you look at the edge of that bolt, it's got 12 points on it. It's not like a normal bolt. Get a socket like this. If you put a normal socket on there, you're going to end up having a bad day. Throw a little extension on there to get around the forks so you're not marring up your forks. Bust these loose. Now with ABS, you see this little sensor right here slides up and down this line. That stays on the bike. that goes right there behind that. Okay, so that's just going to fall when you take those 2 bolts out. But now you should be able to pull your caliper back and you can let it hang. You can tie it off. You can do whatever you want with it. We let them hang as long as there's nothing pulling on them. They're absolutely fine, just like that. And I forgot to mention that this wheel speed sensor is only on one side. So when you pull the other caliper off, it's just 2 bolts and let it drop down. Jack the bike up to where you can roll this out from underneath the fender. Make yourself a soft table like this to get your rotors off. Torx 40 on these rotor bolts. Pull your rotor off, get your new wheel up on the table. Rotors, line up the holes. Blue Loctite on all of these bolts. Wafer washer in there, that's what makes this a floating rotor. Go ahead and get all 5 in, tighten them down. Do that on both sides, and then we'll torque them. I'm going to torque these rotor bolts in a star pattern, 20 to 22 foot-pounds. Now our wheel is ready to take up to HD to have that Metzler ME888 put on here, our TPS sensor. We'll get it all mounted up, balanced, we'll bring it back here, and we'll install it on the bike. So we got our TPS sensor and our tire installed. Now we're ready to finish the install over here. Now, like I said, there's only a couple of things that you need to change on these to make this work now, and that is changing the front fender and of course the cans. Very easy to do on a road glide, a little bit more difficult on a street glide, but still the same, pretty easy. Next step we're going to do right here is take this fender off. It's going to be a 1/4 inch Allen on these fender bolts. The next thing we're going to do, if you look up in here on the road glide, you'll see the top of the fork legs, and there'll be 2 screws up there going down like this through the triple tree and holds these fork cans on. But in order to remove these fork cans, we need to get these fork legs removed. Now on the road glide, you've got a 2-piece fork cover right here. You've got a screw up here, you got a screw underneath this cap, and you got a bolt on each end here. And we can get this cap off and we can get to our upper pinch bolts to remove our forks. We're gonna start right here with this little plastic cap and a little plastic pry tool. We're just gonna get underneath that and we're gonna pop that up. From there you have 2 Phillips head screws. Take your Phillips head up here on the top one. Up here at the top where you had your Phillips head plastic screw, there's a little black cap there that you can pop out now. So we want to take a little pick and we want to pop that little cap out. Now on each side right here we have a 3/8 bolt. It's easier if you have a ratcheting wrench like this. Get down in there, sometimes it's hard to get to that bolt with the socket, but you can turn the handlebars and get to it. Now from there, this just separates at the bottom, separates at the top, like that. We can turn our handlebars. Wiggle these pieces out. So if I pull you off the tripod real quick, you can see down in there we got 2 pinch bolts, and then right up here we have another pinch bolt. Those are going to be the pinch bolts that we want to release to let that fork out. Now we're going to take a Torx 27 and remove these 2 bolts right here to get this vent off. Turn the handlebars. We're going to take a 1/4 inch Allen and we're going to loosen that top one. Don't remove it. And come down here to the bottom. Same thing. Loosen those 2 pinch bolts. Now before you pull the fork out, pay attention right here to where the fork sticks out of the top of this triple tree. If you want to mark that, you can, or take a picture of it, whatever you want to do. You want to make sure that you get this back in the same spot. We got about a nickel's worth hanging out once we get past the cap there, so that's easy to remember. I'm going to come over here to the front with that last bolt It's a little bit harder for me to get to here. Take an Allen wrench in here, and I'm going to loosen this. And once you got it loose, you see that fork start to slide down. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. I'm going to set that off to the side, and now we've got our 2 screws up here at the top that's going to release this fork can. Now the 2 screws coming down are going to be 5/32 Allen. So we're going to take our Allen key in here again. Get that one out. Make sure you got a hold of the can while you unscrew the second bolt. And that'll take the fork can off. Now inside your kit, you're going to have new shaved fork cans from Advanblack. See the Advanblack logo right there on the back side. With some nice custom lines on the front right there. Nice heavy duty cans. These are going to take the place of the cans we just took off. Of course, your cutout is going to be inside towards the wheel. Your fender is going to set right across here. That's why these cans have to be changed. Now before installing your fork can screws, go ahead and add some blue Loctite to those. We'll set the can up in there and run our screws back in. So I've still got my Allen wrench up here. Come around here to the front. Get this one lined up. Once you get it started, go ahead and tighten them down. Now you can see we have our new fork can in here. We're going to take our leg, go ahead and slide it back up in. Come around to this side. Make sure that we're pushed all the way through. Nickel's width sticking out of the top up there. And then we can go ahead and snug one of these down. Now that we got that top one snug down, we can turn this and get to these bottom ones. Now this next part is absolutely crucial. A lot of these bolts we can kind of slip and slide by on the torque specs, but on your pinch bolts for your forks, you need to make sure that you torque them. These are 14 to 18 foot-pounds. That's for the upper and for the lower 2 bolts. Anytime that you have 2 pinch bolts stacked on top of each other like the bottom 2, you got 1 at the top and then 2 at the bottom. I want you to make sure that you hit both of those twice. You can tighten that top and then you can tighten the bottom. And then you can retighten the top, make sure it's at 14 to 18 foot-pounds, and then redo the bottom one again. So we're gonna get in here with our torque wrench and get these torqued down. We got the bottom one, we got the top one. We're gonna move back to the bottom one again. See, we got a little bit more turn out of that before it clicked. We're gonna move back to the top one again. Okay, we can go ahead and reinstall our vent. Now we're going to repeat this exact same process on the other side of the bike. So here we have the Advanblack Rapper Fat Tire front fender. This is color matched to the Whiskey Fire back here. Inside your hardware kit, you're going to have new bolts for your fender. It's going to be marked 24 to 25 Street Glide, Road Glide, and on this side you got the 23.5 to 25 and up CVO with the inverted forks. Those forks are different than the forks we're working on here, so make sure you choose the correct hardware. In this bag we're going to choose the 24 to 25 up Street Glide, Road Glide, nuts and bolts, and then we have a bag of washers to go on there. So the first thing I did is moved my calipers up out of the way. When we slide this fender in it, we don't want those calipers down there hanging and banging onto our fender, right? Now the trick to getting these fenders on are taking your forks and spinning them backwards, right? So we're going to spin both forks backwards. Remember, you're just turning the bottom part. You're not turning the forks up in here. You're just turning the legs down here at the bottom. We want to get these out of the way. These stick out and won't allow your fender to pass by. So what we're going to do now is slide this up into place. We want to go past these, and then we're going to turn these back in. Just like that. We're going to do this on both sides. And now we can bring the fender back down to here. We got one of our bolts ready right here. I'm going to go ahead and slide that one in. Go ahead and slide the other one in. Now we got our front fender up in here, and I've taken one of the bolts in the rear and I've pushed it through the fender, but just barely. Put your hand on the back side, just enough to catch the fender. On this side, we're going to do the same thing, either the front or the rear, but we're going to just catch the fender. The reason why is when you put bolts in here with nuts on here, it doesn't want to pass the edge of the tire. These tires are really wide. Make sure to check that you got your wheel on correctly. ABS bikes have a different ABS wheel bearing. As you can see, this one's slightly tinted yellow, the other side's not. This is our ABS sensor side. It was on the caliper when we pulled that off earlier. Now also, depending on what tire you have, so you need to ask when you're having your tire mounted if that's a reverse tire or a forward tire. Now with the Metzler ME888, these tires can be ran on the rear and on the front. So on this tire, on a fat tire, the arrow is going to go towards the front. A lot of other tire brands, you have to take that rear tire and you have to flip it around backward. That's why I prefer the Metzler ME888, is I can run it in the correct direction. It's a nice tire. They last a long time. They're grippy, they're soft, they're cushiony, so they ride really good. Now these tires are a little on the softer side, so they're much more grippier. Now, while you have those fender bolts in there, make sure you're not hitting and knocking anything around. You may want to take some painter's tape and go around your forks and across around the fenders, just in case anything slips. You don't want to scratch your fork legs, and you definitely don't want to scratch your fender. So I'm going to slide my tire into place just like that. Got enough room on both sides. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start letting this down until our bolt holes get in the middle here between our rotor and our wheel. You want to do this gently so you don't pop that fender and let it fall. So we're just going to bring this down. We're going to come back over here. I'm going to reach in. I'm going to go ahead and push that bolt through. So now we know that side's not going anywhere, and this side as well. Now we can finish installing our bolts. Same thing on the back side there. Go ahead and get your washers and your nuts on all 4 bolts. Now from here we can go ahead and tighten those down. Now we want to lower our jack down until our axle can go back through. Now without putting the spacers in, I'm just going to go ahead and check. So we're good to go right there. Remember, on our spacer, the lines on the spacer were to the outside. So we're going to slide that in, put our axle in, and push this over. Now we're going to have to release our caliper from the side so we can get our ABS sensor, but I'm going to put a towel around this caliper so it doesn't scratch up my fender. All I want right now is the ABS sensor. On the back side of this ABS sensor is a little nipple. Once you put this in, before we tighten it down, we have to rotate this all the way up until that nipple bumps the back and stops. So we're going to slide our spacer in here, get our axle. Now, it's a new bike, so it's got plenty of anti-seize on the shaft. If you have an older bike and you had to pull this off, wipe that stuff off and apply some new anti-seize on that. Only on the shaft only, not on the threads. You're going to have to kind of jiggle stuff around until you get everything to fit in the right place. You may have to shift your tire, your wheel around to get everything to line up. All the way pushed up. We want to make sure this ABS sensor is pushed all the way up. We're going to take a flathead screwdriver down in our calipers and we're going to spread our calipers apart. Give us plenty of room to get these back on. Then we can slide our caliper back on like that. Get our 10 millimeter. So it'll look like this when it's reinstalled with your line going up, this piece like this, line going up. You can see on your brake line where they're marked for these little clips. You just want to slide those up into place. There should be 3. You want to do the same thing on the other side. Now once you get your caliper seated back on, go ahead and squeeze your front brake and push those calipers back out until the brake pads back into the rotors. Should take 5, 6, 7 squeezes until you feel it get tight. All we have left to do is put our pinch bolt back in here. Now once you have everything torqued to spec, your fat tire is installed. We're going to get these 2 pieces snuck back in here. Make sure that they're around your cables. Get these 2 pieces snapped back together. Get our bolts put back in the sides. And 2 screws in the bottom. Take our threaded push clip, put it back in the top. Our plastic screw in the top. And then we have little piece at the bottom. We'll snap it back in place, and we're done. And once again, that's the Fat Fender from Advanblack, color matched of course, and the fork cans, and the metal Artopia 1855 wheel. I hope this video helped you today, but if you have any questions, you know the deal. Comment section down below. I'll try to help you the best that I can. I'll put links down in the description to all of this stuff back here, so it'll take you straight over to the website where you can purchase your own. If you like what you see and you want to see more content like this, hit that like, hit that subscribe. Make sure to tell your friends about our channel. All these things add up to us getting out here and making more videos for you. I'm going to get out of here, get myself cleaned up. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then, as always, be safe. Keep your knees in the breeze. Hey, thanks for stopping by and checking out our videos today. If you like what you see, make sure you hit that like button, hit the little subscribe button popping up over here. If you want to check out more of our content, I've got 2 videos right here that'll get you started. Not really going to say anything else, just click one of those videos and take you to another video.